Even when I was like 8, 9 years old, I was like, how can people like this life? Just get a job and live the life like in the same city the entire life. And I couldn't like explain that to myself. So I already knew like I wanted to do something different. First 2 years, I didn't have any success. So I was working probably like 90, 100 hours a week. And I was not like going out, not doing anything. And still like there was no success. So that's when most people would give up. Like if you don't give up, there's no way you can fail.
Oh guys, Alex Fedotoff here. And today we have an amazing guest, Simone. He is our client in Elite Mastermind and just a good friend at this point. We talk pretty much almost every week. And he is running successful e-commerce business. Last month he did, what,
5.7.
5.7 million and just growing very fast. And also just seeing your evolution over time. Just tremendous, you know, to see kind of like how you're evolving as a person, as an individual, as a professional, as an entrepreneur. And so happy to have you here today.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Awesome. So if you can tell us more about your background, where you're from, how old you are. I know you're a very young entrepreneur.
Yeah, I'm 23. Just turned recently 23. So I actually had, I was like just going to school up until like 19. Then I decided to drop out because like I felt that was not like kind of like my route. I never wanted to, we can say like, go the normal route, we can say. So
why though? Like why didn't you want to?
I think even when I was like 8, 9 years old, I was like, how can people like this life, How can people like, just like, going to school, then go to university, then just get a job, and live the life like in the same city the entire life, Like I was like, how can people like that, And I couldn't like explain that to myself. So I already knew like I wanted to do something different. But I had no idea what, So like when I was like 18, I started searching like online. I think like anyone who
how to make money
online. How to make money online, exactly. But in Italian I searched for that. So at that time like there was pretty much nothing, And the first thing I saw was, and the first thing that was there was Amazon FBA. So that's actually how I started. Problem is I ordered first inventory, and then as soon as they placed the order with my last money, I think like I had like $1,000 left. Amazon shut down my account, So like I was like, now I paid for the inventory. Where do where I'm gonna ship it to? And that's when I started looking for. I got into like Shopify, So I shipped my inventory to this like Shopify warehouse. This Italian warehouse, and then I created like my website with Shopify, and then it was like complete failure. I couldn't sell like anything. So then like months passed by, and at that time, like beginning of 2020, I wasn't really doing like anything like actively to kind of like get myself off the ground. And then I had my company kind of opened, so like I had like to pay like some like minimum tax, but I had like $1,000 left, and I had to pay I think like $700 after a couple of months. So I was like, okay, I need to do something, and that's when I got into like drop shipping, we can say, and that's what I did for like I think like a year and a half or two, and then I transitioned to kind of like something more long term, and that's when we started building a brand and so on, and now after 2.5 years we are here.
Very nice. And so it's fascinating to hear, like, so it basically was 4 years ago when you just started, those first steps in e-commerce. And a lot has changed in 4 years, obviously, right? Your business is doing well, it's growing. And you also you evolved personally as well, like on so many different levels. But it's fascinating to see that, like, initially you didn't have success, like most people, right? Most people try anything. They try e-commerce, like Amazon. They try, opening an agency, like whatever, they're trying to do. Even going to the gym, and like first like months, probably first year, there's like usually not much to show for it. What kept you moving and what kept you pushing, like even though it wasn't working out right away?
Yeah, so like you said it right, for the first like 2 years, I didn't have any success. So I was working like
2 years.
Yeah, so probably like 90, 100 hours a week. And I was not like going out, not doing anything. And still like there was no success. So that's when like most people would give up. But to me, it was like, what's the other alternative, Like, if I give up, then I have to like get a job, like, and I don't even have like, I didn't even finish school. So what am I gonna do, So like, I kind of cut off the B plan, we can say, and that's I think like what a lot of people like are scared to do, but that's what kind of like gives you just one direction to go to, to go like towards, we can say. Because if you just have to do that because you have no other alternatives, then you just have to make it work, we can say. And I like strongly believe that the only way to, and I've seen this like for me, for myself, but for a lot of people, like the only way to fail is to like give up, Like if you don't give up, there's no way you can fail. Like there's no way, basically. So
you can find the solution, you can find the answers like sooner or later.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, you will make mistakes and then you will learn from, like you will have to learn from these mistakes. And then every time you're like a step above, like a step further, we can say. And that's, like eventually things will click and you will figure it out. Obviously then it's not like this, there's always like ups and downs and you have to figure out new things to get to a new level, Like if you have this mentality, like you can achieve anything you want, Really, like I think you can achieve anything you want in life, like regardless of how big the goal is. Obviously, like the bigger the goal, the harder like it is to get there, the more sacrifices you'll have to make, and like the longer hours you will have to work, the higher the stress, the more the responsibilities. So it will come with a price, but if you are willing to pay the price, you can achieve anything you want, Yeah.
Man, this is so profound. And so when you started so you got into e-commerce, first 2 years, not much traction. You started drop shipping. At what point you decided to just evolve your business from drop shipping to a proper brand and just start building kind of like something more long-term?
Yeah, I remember like it was, I think, March 2022, and I was running a bunch of things, So I was running a bunch of things with the mentality of, the more I do, the more I can, I was trying to do like 10 things at the same time, hoping then, all 10 will work. And obviously like none of them would work, So
I remember we had the first conversation. You were running like 10 stores or something, and you were doing 100K per month?
Yeah, I think like 100, 200, something like that, but with like razor team profits. And, I didn't really have like a plan on, how to like even grow, stuff like that. And we had that conversation, and, you advise, to just focus on one thing, and then that's, kind of how it shifted, Obviously at the beginning it was a bit scary because I was like still with this mentality, like the more stuff I do, like at the same time, even though I don't have the resources, I don't have the time, the better. Instead, it's not like this. Yeah.
So you just like out of, let's say you had like 10 different stores, it's like selling different products?
Yeah, like a lot of different stuff. Yeah. Selling
general
different products. No, I don't think it was general store. It was just different niches, different products. Yeah. Like all possible things I could do.
And you decided to double down on the one that had the most promise?
Yeah, right. And I had a lot of experience in that niche, we can say. So it made sense, we can say.
You decided on that. So at that point, I mean, it's kind of like transition, like mindset shift, right? That because even here, we just finished our event, and we have a lot of successful entrepreneurs in our community. And there are some people that are just trying to do too many things at the same time. They're like, oh, I have this project and it's doing like 1 million a month. I want to launch there's like three other things that I want to launch. And I'm like, okay, do you have the team that can support, that can be like totally separate from your main team to run that project? They're like, no, but we can do like my current team can do a little bit here, a little bit there, And it's like, yeah. And that's usually where entrepreneurs kind of like getting like distracted, because even with one brand, I mean, you have, and that also was a tremendous evolution for you, and that's what you do differently from most people, is that you've got momentum with like one key product, you had some few supplementary, but then you added how many new products? You added like
Yeah, I think by this time probably 10 new products.
10 new products.
Yeah.
And then also you have how many products in development?
Yeah, we have like at least another like 8, but then we have for next year like between 12 and 18 that we want to introduce with our current team. I think they should be able to, they are able to handle that. Yeah.
Wow. So it's pretty much, instead of trying to do all of these things, like even like different Shopify stores, different niches, you have to understand the consumer, you have to understand who you're selling to. That all reflects on the marketing, on the creatives, on the media buying. Instead of just focusing on one brand, just having more products that make sense for that one consumer, or even like that niche, and just keep just building that momentum over time. Where, let's say, if customer buys one product, there's other products you can sell them. If they buy the second one, there's third one you can sell them, and you just keep stacking the the lifetime value of that customer.
Yeah. I think like focus is like the key. It's really important, and I think like the only way I see it where it makes sense to launch another brand, at least this is my opinion. Then other people have other opinions. When like you see that it became so hard to like scale that business further, that there would be like other opportunities that would make more sense, I think. And that's when I think like it makes sense either to switch your focus to another opportunity. But when you do that, you have to make sure that you're completely out of the day-to-day in that business, because if you do it when you're still in the day-to-day in that business, then it's going to cause like a massive like focus shift, and eventually like all brands, there's a high chance that all brands will then suffer, So, and it makes sense at that point either to keep that current, like open a new business if you have delegated, your current one, if you are out of the day-to-day operations in the current one, or we can say like not just the day-to-day operations, but we can say if you go out of that business for, let's say, 3 months, can you still run without you, And that's one, like either you just start a new one, or you can try to sell the current one to then shift to a new project, So I think key is like focus is the key. And I think like also inside the business, focus is the key. If you just have one business, you have to filter down the information that that like filter down all the things that you could possibly do, because there will be like a lot of things, but you have limited time and limited resources. So you have to kind of figure out which things make sense to do at which point, I've seen a lot of people also doing like good, 8 figures, like maybe 10, $15 million a year, that don't have a clear strategy on how they want to, scale further, So they're just like, okay, let's scale, let's launch more ads, let's like just ramp up the budget with maybe one product, one market, one channel, and they don't have a clear strategy on, when we should introduce new products, if it makes sense to introduce new product, whether to introduce new channels or not, and which channels, whether to, introduce more markets, like go into new markets or not do it, So I think having a strategy is and a roadmap, roadmap of products, roadmap of channels, roadmap of markets, the roadmap might just be like, okay, we won't do any new markets, for the next 2 years, but at least that, So having that strategy is, I think, what allowed us to scale, further than just like, let's say 10 million a year, or 50 million a year.
Yeah. This is interesting. So you said products, market, channels. Right.
Yeah.
So
these are the like 3 ways you can scale like an e-com business, we can say.
Yeah. So by products, you mean introducing new products that ideally would somehow be kind of like in the same niche, right? So the same customers can buy them, or maybe a different segment of your market. Like we had a conversation yesterday about that when you're introducing products, you're very strategic about it. So those products don't kind of sabotage the sales that you're getting for the main one, so they don't directly compete with each other.
Yeah, that's a very good strategy. So like that we are adopting now, which is that when you're introducing new products, especially like evergreen products, you want to have ideally not more than, at least this is what we are doing now. Like we don't want to have a lot of products that target the same like audience, we can say, because then they would just start competing with each other. So like we want to have products that target different like problems still in our, or like that we can say satisfy certain, I don't know if satisfy is the right word, like certain pleasures, and that are in the same audience, in the same niche, but they target different audience, So this way they don't really like compete with each other, So for instance, if you are like the pain niche, like you could have one like foot pain product, the back pain product, the knee pain product, and instead of introducing, let's say, 5 knee pain products that would just compete with each other, So, I mean, that's obvious, but in our niche, we can say it wasn't that obvious, So that.
How did you come to that conclusion?
I think it was just natural, Like if we have, especially like in a small, like in a bigger market, it's a bit different. I mean, it will take, you will have to have like so many products at so much spend for them to start competing like with each other. But like in smaller markets, in Europe, for instance, like there's so many, and in a small niche, there's so many people that can buy like your product certain day, So if they buy like one of your products one day, they could have, let's say, bought any of your other, let's say 5 of your other products, but now that day they already bought one, they're not gonna buy the other 4, So that's when you start seeing like kind of like you might see an overlap, we can say, or like they just compete with each other, we can say.
How do you do your competitive research? Let's say you need, let's say that you need to launch new products, right? And people ask me all the time, it's like, how do I know like the next product I should be introducing to to my store? So what's your process with that? Do you go on Amazon? Do you buy some like reports, like market research, like what categories are growing? Like how do you usually identify which products to go after next?
Yeah, like I think it goes back to the strategy I previously mentioned. Like you kind of have first to understand how many products you want to introduce, and obviously it will depend on each business, So like there are certain business, let's say if you're running in the US, you probably won't need like to introduce, let's say, if you're in a like very big niche, you will probably need to introduce, let's say, 20 products per year, You might just have, let's say, 2, 3, 4, 5 products per year that you want to introduce. And then in that case, like the strategy obviously changes from, if you have to introduce, let's say, 20 products per year. So if you have, like it starts, as I said, like it will depend on each business, but if I have to generalize that, it will have to fit into your brand. So it will have to fit the brand mission and the brand values that you have, So if you are, let's say, if your brand mission is, we want to, for instance, have an impact on, like there's a brand, for instance, that sells detergent sheets, I mean, there's multiple, and like their mission is something like, we want to reduce plastic, So if you introduce something that obviously goes against that mission, then like customers will feel kind of like, that they will understand that that's not your brand, that's not part of your brand. So that's one, that's very clear, but still, like there's other cases where it's let's say, for instance, I don't know if I can say this, but like for instance, I think like it's clear, like Udi, they like their mission is like I hope like I'm saying it correctly, but that every product they introduce, it has to be comfortable, So if now they introduce something that's not comfortable, then even in the subconscious mind of the consumer, they will feel that's not part of their brand, So it will go against their brand value. So that's first, and then it will have to come down to the criteria, So like it will have to note down and to draft the criteria that the product that you introduce should have, and that will depend on each business, So it will depend on how many products you have to introduce. It will depend on how many. I think that's the first one.
Yeah, I think it's depending on the size of the market that you're in. Like if you're selling like very like big TAM of the market, there's like, let's say 50 or 100 million people that have a specific problem, specific condition, then you you don't need to introduce as many products. But if you're, let's say, selling in a smaller markets that only have so many potential customers, then you'll have to be like more proactive with new product. If you just want to stay in that market and not go to other markets, then you'll have to introduce a lot more products. So it's kind of like would depend on those factors. Like what is a TAM, total addressable market you're going after, how many people are in it, and how many of them can potentially buy your product on an annual basis, and what amount of products you would have to introduce to get you to the goal that you have for the year.
Yeah. The first thing I said was number of products.
Products, markets, channels.
Yeah. So now I'm gonna repeat like what you said. So like the like another important factor is the total addressable market. So obviously, if you have like if you are in a big market, obviously you will need, as I was saying previously, like you will need to introduce fewer products. But if you are in like, let's say, any European market or like still small market, you might need to introduce more of the products. So having a product that fits into the brand values and having a strategy behind like how many you need to introduce and based on your market size, I think this would be probably like the two factors that I would consider. Like obviously each business is different, so I could say like what we do ourselves on our side, but like it won't apply to probably like most people which are in other niches, So I think if you have already those two, like they should be in different, I would say three. So like first, like they have to fit into your brand mission. Then you have to understand how many you want to introduce, and then they don't have to compete with each other. So you can have, I think these three will already kind of give you, and four, like you have to have some criteria, So like, for instance, it will depend on each business. Every like business will have different criteria. It will have to have, let's say, a certain like, it will have to solve a certain TAM. We can say it will have to have a certain TAM, or like it will have to be light and easy to ship, or it will have to be. You will have like, for instance, I could tell you like some of our own that are really big. Like it has to be differentiated. Like we have to be able to differentiate it. If it's very hard to be differentiated from the competition, then it's a very like red flag. A big red flag, we can say, because then it will be hard to charge a premium price, especially when there's all Amazon sellers that are like all Chinese factories on Amazon that are selling the product for half of your price. If your product is very similar or is exactly the same, then it will be very hard to compete with them. And also, like even in D2C, you will get a lot of competition like pretty fast if you just sell a product that's very accessible to everyone, and because it's hard to be differentiated, you can say. So if you sell, let's say, a microphone, or let's say maybe like a football, if you sell a football, then you can differentiate that football like so much. We can say it has to be a football still. So like it will be harder for you to differentiate, like compared to like any other product that's instead, let's say, a kit, like a drawing kit. You can like design like 10 different drawing kits. Like you can have it so much different than other people, we can say. So that's one. So another one big for us is just going after products that are validated for now. So we will have a team next year that instead just does R&D for like new ideas. So just they will just be introducing like completely custom products. But like having a brand that has validated your product, that's something that we look forward to at this point, because that if there is demand, then it's just about how you sell the product, While instead, if there's if you don't know if there's demand, then and it doesn't work, then it might be because no one wants that. Like there's no demand for the product. You cannot create the demand. That's one thing, So if there is demand, then it's just about how you sell the product, So that's another one.
So when it comes to team building, like you evolved from pretty much being like a solopreneur, like running stores and getting some stuff off the ground, to now running. How big is your team?
We'll have by the end of this month around 60 people.
60 people.
Like in-house, we can say.
Wow. Yeah. So what are the biggest mistakes that you think you have made when building the team?
I think one big one is not giving incentives to your A player earlier, because really those people are the ones that are we can say the copy of you, So imagine running the business with 5 of you, 5 of your copies instead of just you. So if I gave incentives earlier, let's say it could be a percentage on the EBITDA or any other type of bonus, I think they would have been a lot more motivated. I mean, they've still done very well, but they would have been even more motivated to, help us grow faster. I think that's probably the biggest one, I would say.
Yeah. Did you ever had to fire someone?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
What were the biggest reasons that you had to fire someone?
Well, there's been a lot of different reasons, we can say. If I have to recall some, people just not responsive, or they don't fit into our brand values, So for instance, one big value for us is not hiding things and be very transparent and integrity at the same time. So we had people that have tried to hide or to or just lie. Lying is for us if you lie in our team, you're immediately out. Because I don't know you might lie in the future. The trust is broken. So it's you can put the all the pieces to make again a glass, but the glass will still be broken. You will see still you will still see that that's been broken. So it's that's going against our values. That's one that we had to let some people go because of that. And the other one is they didn't fulfill the role well, you can say. So they had to do certain things, they had to accomplish certain things, and they haven't been able to, despite all the obviously SOPs and help and training and that we have been put into that. Sometimes even for certain positions I personally had to spend tens and tens of hours to train the person, and you just realize this was not the person that can achieve the things that are needed in this role. So then you just have to let them go, and they will find another business that's more suitable for them. It's just not right for us, we can say.
For a long time, I mean, you've been running pretty much both sides of your business. Both obviously the visionary part and also the operational side of things. And then you brought the operations person to your team 6 months ago?
No, 12 months ago.
12 months ago. What impact it had on your business?
It really changed the, especially I wouldn't say too much into marketing, but anything that wasn't marketing, operations, company culture, team building, it took that all over, and we really we went from having just some people on Slack and no SOPs barely we can say just a few SOPs just to barely run the business to now having proper task management tool with everyone knows how to do what they have to do, their deadlines. We have set up calendar for our a Google Calendar for our main team members, so we know what they have to do, when they have to do. We have set up a hiring system where he hosts some interviews, and then depending on the position, he will have interviews, or I have interviews, or our managers have interviews, and also then company culture, making sure everyone knows what we stand for, we can say, and what we require and what we don't allow, what we allow, and so on. Yeah.
So that freed up a lot of your time, so you can have a lot more thinking about where the business goes, kind of outlining those next steps for the business, because you don't have to manage people directly, right? Or you don't have to kind of be like in the very like nitty gritty of the business?
Yeah, right. Like I like it allowed me to focus on other aspects of the business rather than these things that I just mentioned. So we were able to, I was able to focus on products, on marketing, and on backend. That's what that allowed me to do. I think that's crucial position for any business, like any 8-figure business, we can say.
It's interesting that on every stage of growth, like let's say to 7 figures, I mean, the structure could be like very simple, only a few people. You can manage them directly. You can do many of the tasks like yourself. You can get to that level, like 100K per month, few 100K per month. But then as you want to scale farther, you have to identify what is a big constraint that you have, right? So for you, for instance, it's operations, because the team grows, like there's more lines of communication between people, and it just becomes like overwhelming if you try to coordinate so many different things. And besides that, just like you cannot be really good like operator, very good marketer, very good like CEO, like simultaneously. It's just like totally different skill sets. You have to think differently. So that's, like you've seen also like a lot of these businesses that kind of like get to a certain level and then they get stuck. What they have to reflect on is, what is the constraint? Like first, like what are the strengths of the, let's say, business owner? Like, so for example, your strengths. I mean, you're very good at this, creating this, product pipeline, knowing what to introduce next, what markets you can get into, like, and then from there, identifying, what other people are needed for the business at each particular stage of growth so that you free up your time and you focus on the things that you're specifically good at.
That's right. Like that's definitely how like things should go, and at each stage of the business, you will need like, we can say different people to, like you will need to figure out what your constraint is, as you said, and then, based on that, understand, whether you need more, it's a people constraint, so you need more people, or it's, let's say product constraints, so you need like to introduce more SKUs. So yeah, I think that's how you, can go to a certain, like from a certain size to a different size.
So where did you find the most success, like hiring people? Is that Upwork, LinkedIn, Online Jobs PH?
So it all depends on each position. Like we are a lot from LinkedIn, but obviously like for certain like positions, like lower tier position, like positions like customer support agents, like we use a lot of onlinejobs.ph, as far as I know. And for like instead more senior positions, we use like mostly LinkedIn, we can say. We use, for instance, for developers, like shop that know Shopify and know like anything about Shopify. We have found ours on Fiverr and Upwork and brought them in-house. So they just stopped working there, and now they're just working for us in-house. So because we haven't really found, I mean, you can find a lot of developers on LinkedIn. From our experience, we haven't been able to find specific those with specific experience, related to Shopify or like any others like platform you're using, if you're using Checkout Champ or any other platform. So it will depend on each position, and but you can see like mostly LinkedIn. Yeah, if I were to just give one answer. Yeah.
At what stage? So initially, when you started the business, you were managing your own ads.
Yeah, of course.
Until what stage did you manage your own ads?
$300,000 a month when I brought in like our media buyer, and I think that's the first like thing you should do when the business like kind of picks up, because really like when like managing ads, it might take you, obviously depending on like, if you are the creative strategist, if you have the script writer, if you are the one that manages ads, I mean, it's just gonna take you like 50, 60 hours per week, So you just have like 10, 20 hours left in the week, maybe you can dedicate to other things. So when the business like starts working, that's the first thing you should do, I would say.
What would be the biggest like piece of advice when hiring media buyers?
I will go later also in the like stages, we can say, like the stages of like the training stages, when it comes to hiring, you want to see like someone that's sharp, that's like data driven, a nerd type of guy, on a certain like side, like at least, a bit of that, but at the same time, like someone that's I would say like someone that's very analytical as well. So yeah, this will probably be like the traits I would look for. And when it comes to onboarding the person, we like to have like a 3-step like training. So like training process. So the first one is when the media buyer joins the call and sees you kind of managing the ads, okay? So that's the first step, the media buyer. You're just managing the ads, you're explaining to the media buyer like what you're doing, why you're doing that. And then the second step is the media buyer, and that will last probably like anywhere from like 2 to 4 weeks. And then you have next, obviously like the earlier the better, like the shorter the better, because if someone can just pick up and get up to speed in like a very short time, that's a good sign, obviously. Then the second step would be the media buyer managing the ads while you are on the call, so you can basically like stop them from doing anything crazy, if you see that they're about to do something wrong. And then you should already be able to see all the feedback that you previously gave them in the past like weeks, they are actually applying that, and they're actually applying the feedback that you're giving them every time, you can say, So if you are telling them, no, we don't have to do this, then you don't want to see that the same mistake, being made over and over and over again. And the third step instead would just be the media buyer just managing ads. And what we like to do is the media buyer would just send Loom videos on, him or her managing the ads, and then you can just watch them. You watch that later on, and see. By that time, like there shouldn't be any crazy. Like 95% of the stuff should be done right, So there shouldn't be any crazy like mistake. We can say that would, disrupt like like drop the performance of your ads. We can say.
I mean, you chatted with probably like a lot of entrepreneurs here. You've, inside of our community, probably outside of it as well. What are the biggest mistakes that you see entrepreneurs are making when it comes to, scaling their business? Either it's from 7 to 8 figures, or like from 8 figures to multiple 8 figures. Or 9 figures.
I think it goes back to what I was previously like mentioning, which is like not having a clear strategy, and just like being, okay, we want to push more ads, want to push more ad spend, but you don't really have like a clear strategy on, whether you should introduce instead more SKUs, or whether we should introduce like when to do things and what to do, basically. And also like another thing that I see a lot of people don't do is like having a sales forecast, which would basically be the written form of your strategy, So like it would include the sales of all your products, but that would be dictated by the markets you're in, by the ad spend they would have, by the return on ad spend that they would get, by the by how many channels you have. So that's another very important one, not just like for inventory forecasting, but also for knowing how much you're gonna do, how much you can potentially do next year in the best case, or like in the worst case, or like in the we can say like good case. So like we already knew how much we would have done. We would do like last month, already at the beginning of the year.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and that was very close.
You were projecting for the whole year.
Yeah, and we already know like how much we can potentially do next year, how much we can potentially do 2026. Obviously, the further in time, like the less accurate, But still, you want to have that to see like if that matches even with your your goals for the business, So and your growth goals for the business.
How do you so for you personally, how do you develop that strategy? Like, do you go like somewhere like totally different place by yourself, or do you take some key people from your team to think about that strategy, or are you just staying at home and kind of like come up with a plan and strategy?
Yeah, so it all starts from like a goal, So if you don't have the goal, you for sure know that you're not gonna like achieve it, because you don't know what direction you're going to,
Mm-hmm.
So it starts from the goal, and based on the goal, then you will have to figure out how you can get there like practically, So can I achieve that goal next year with the current products that I have, with the current channels that I have, with the current like backend that I have, with the current markets that I have, So that's where it all starts from, And once once you have that goal, then you can develop, as I said, this strategy on, and you can understand if you can achieve that with your current things, or if you need to do more things, and then you will figure out, you start thinking which things you have to do.
Awesome. And so one of the things that, that's so special about you is that you're very focused in a sense that, like, so for instance, I remember I was in Dubai like last year, and I was like not far from where you live in Dubai. And I'm like, Simone, let's meet up, let's catch up. And you're like, I'm sorry, I have work to do. And you're just like working very focused, right? And eliminating all the distractions, even though you live in Dubai, like you live in one of the most like beautiful places, in the world. And even in Dubai, one of the best areas, you're staying very focused and you're very selective, kind of like where you go and like where you spend your time. Like, how was that like a natural for you, or that something that you decided to cut all the distractions and, stick with, what you have to do to get it done?
Yeah, part of it was natural, I would say. Part of it I had to do it, like cutting, for instance, all, social media for like a long time, or like stop hanging out. Like
you're not on Instagram?
I mean, depends on the time, now it's different than like 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was like, for like 2-3 years, I was not on social media on anything. Now, for most part of the year, I don't have them. I never access them. Then when I'm traveling, I might just have them. But that like part of it, I had to like go and actually like change my like cut the distractions, I would say, but also change, like, you need to change the person that you are. So you need to stop, for instance, hanging out with the or like limit just going out with people that are not aligned with you, that they don't have like the same goals as you, because they will eventually influence you. So I'm not saying like cut your friends and never talk to them ever again, but what I'm saying is you have limited time. So you have to decide where you spend your time on. And the other one is like, I've always been like very focused, so I can work, and I always work with like my phone here, and I never look at them like never look at it for like 12 hours straight. And I can have it there open, even that I'm not gonna be distracted by that. So I've always been like very focused. I think that's by nature, but that's also something that I don't know if like it's just me, but I have this goal, and I'm like, if I'm not focused, if I'm not doing my 100%, then there's a chance that I know I haven't done like anything I could to achieve that, So then I don't know, like, there's a chance that you're not going to achieve that because like you are not, that's a thing. I think at least I feel it, if I do like, if I'm super focused, if I'm very disciplined, if I do like what I said I would do, then I've done anything possible, like to achieve that goal. And I know, like, I'm sure I'm going to achieve it. So, yeah, I would say like part natural, part like just part of my nature, I would say. And part of it instead is like I had to like actually implement things, like change my routine, limit the time I would spend on going out, and, cut social media and all this type of things.
Awesome. So you've been part of our community for like what, 2 years?
Probably more
than 2 years. And was it helpful on your journey?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like at each stage, I would say there was like obviously like different constraints and different like kind of questions and things I needed help with. So I would say like every time I've found like the right help, whether it was from you or like from Sergey, like for instance, Sergey helped us a lot with offers and marketing in general, like this year. So and also like ad account structure, this type of things. So I would say like if you are like in general like any type of mastermind, if you are like if you can afford for that, like it will just pay off. It can just be one thing, and it will just pay off. So yeah, was really worth it. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and we're very blessed to have you in our community. You're such a value add, and just seeing your evolution over the years is very inspiring. And we'll do another interview when you're at 100 mil a year.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. Thank you so much, Simone.
Sure. Thank you.